All right, today we're going to go through a practice test before we take our Unit 3 test. Make sure that you're showing your work on the Unit 3 test on your own paper and ask questions if you have them. All right, we're going to start with question number 1. It says the graph of the function m of x equals x cubed plus 3x squared minus 2x minus 4. It says that we have a 0 at -1. So highlight or box that in, circle it. That's important. Okay, a 0 means that when x is -1, y is 0. So that would give us our coordinate. Okay, it also means we have a solution at x equals -1. So we could plot that point -1, 0. We could also call it a root, and we could put it in factored form as x minus a -1, which would make that x plus 1 if we're putting it in factored form. All right, now we have the 0 here. What are the other zeros for the function? Because this is in standard form, our variable is x. We're counting down 3, 2, 1, and x to the 0 gives us that constant. This is in standard form. We're not missing any terms. So we're going to I'm going to write this down, and we're going to use synthetic division to find the other two zeros. All right, so let's write that down carefully. X to the third power plus 3x squared minus 2x minus 4. Okay, let's draw that upside down symbol. And our 0 is at -1, so we're going to divide by -1. If they gave us the root like this, we would have to set that equal to 0 and solve to get x equals -1. That's what we're going to divide by. All right, we're going to not use these. We're going to use the coefficients of each of these. So let me rewrite that. Okay, we're going to divide by -1. The coefficient of the x cubed is 1. We have 1x cubed. The coefficient of the quadratic term is 3, and the coefficient of the linear term is -2. And then the coefficient or the constant, that last number, is -4. So we're going to draw a little line to delineate the last number that you see here from the other numbers up here in the division. This is going to be what we multiply by each time after we bring down that first term. So let's bring that straight down and put the 1 here. Now multiply -1 times +1 is -1, and then we're going to add these two together. So we're going to use addition. 3 plus -1 is +2. Now we're going to start that process over again. Multiply -1 times 2 is -2. And then we're going to add -2 plus -2 is -4. Okay, one more time. -1 times -4. A negative times a negative is a positive. 1 times 4 is 4. Put that here. We've reached the end. Add those two together. -4 plus +4 is 0. When you get 0, you have no remainder. So we factored into a trinomial. Now what do we start with? We're going to put our variable, which is x, back in. So we have x. We have 1x to what power? Okay, we factored out, you didn't see the x here, but we factored out an x, so we're going to start with 1 lower than 3. We're going to start with 2. Okay, so we have 1x squared plus 2x to the first power, and then minus 4. Okay, so we factored that out. We can take that root that they gave us and then subtract it. X minus -1 gives us x plus 1. This actually looks like the opposite of our 0. And put this factored out. All right, let's look at what our answer choices are. Is that as far as we have to go? It's asking us for the other two solutions. And I'm looking at my answers. It looks like I'm going to need to use the quadratic formula. And let me just check real quick. Are there two factors of -4, like 1 and -4, -1 and 4, or -2 and +2, that add to give me 2? And there are not. So I'm going to use the quadratic formula to find the other two roots. Quadratic formula is -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, now what is a, what is b, and what is c? We're still factoring this quadratic here. Okay, those are the coefficients in front of each term. So a is equal to, how many quadratic terms do we have? X squareds, we have 1. B, linear term, that coefficient is 2. And then the constant c is equal to -4. Go slowly, make sure you get your signs correct. Positive, positive, negative. All right, now we're going to start substituting into the quadratic formula. So b is +2. So I'm going to put -2 plus or minus the square root of 2 squared, remember b is 2, 2 squared minus 4 times a times c, minus 4, a is 1, and c is -4. All over 2 times a, and a is 1. Okay, so I've got negative, I'm going to move over here, -2 plus or minus the square root of 2 squared, 2 times 2 is 4, minus, let me change that to plus, and pull that negative up here so I don't lose that negative. I already have a negative here as well. So plus, and let's multiply these out. -4 times 1 is -4. -4 times -4 is +16. All over 2 times 1, which is 2. Okay. All right, we're still working on simplifying what's underneath the radical. Okay, so we're going to add 16 plus 4, and we're going to get 20. So let me pull that off to the side. Square root of 20. I want to break that down into factors and take out my factors as pairs. So 20, I'm going to start dividing by 2. 2 goes into 20, 10. 2 goes into 10, 5. These are all prime numbers. I can stop. So we're going to take out pairs, but we're going to take them out as 1. So we're going to take out 1, 2. Okay, and then that 5 has to stay under the radical. Okay, so we've simplified all of this. All of this. All right, so let's write the rest of this. -2 plus or minus the square 2 plus or minus 2 square roots of 5 over 2. Okay, you can pull this apart and write it as -2 over 2. You can distribute the division just like you distribute multiplication into both of those terms. Okay, so it's going to be -2 divided by 2 plus or minus 2 square roots of 5 divided by 2. Okay, then simplify this. 2 over 2 is 1. So you have -1 as your first term. And then 2 over 2 is 1, square roots of 5. So plus or minus the square root of 5. Now these are your other two roots. You can pull it apart and write it as -1 plus the square root of 5 or -1 minus the square root of 5. But you have 2 right here, and then you have your original 1 up here. All right, let's look at question number 2. Question number 2 says a polynomial has a factor x minus 3, and 3x minus 2, and x plus 7. We want to know what the zeros of the function of the polynomial defines. Alright, so it's already in factored form, so let's take each factor, set it equal to 0, and solve. So the first factor is going to be x equals to 0. We already have our solution. There's nothing to work out. The second one, the second factor, is x minus 3. We're going to set that equal to 0 and solve. We're going to solve by adding 3 to both sides, and we'll get x. 3 minus 3 is 0. I'm not going to write the 0. I'll bring down the equal, and 0 plus 3 is 3. So here's my second solution. Here's my first. We're going to take that third factor, 3x minus 2, set it equal to 0, and solve. So first thing I'm going to do is add 2 to both sides. 2 minus 2 is 0. Bring down the 3x. Bring down the equal. 0 plus 2 is 2. Divide by 3. Divide by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. X equals 2/3. Here's my third root, my third 0, my third solution. Okay, and then the last one, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, is x minus 7. No, that's x plus 7. Careful. Set that equal to 0. Solve for x. Subtract 7 from both sides. 7 minus 7 is 0. Bring down the x. Bring down the equal. 0 plus negative 7 is negative 7. Alright, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4 solutions. 4 roots. So this would be a quartic. Okay, so let's look for those solutions. 0, I have a 0 here. I don't have a 0 here. I'm going to mark that out. I have a 0 here. Don't have a 0 here. I need to have that 0. The next solution is 3. So I'm going to look for a positive 3. Got 0, positive 3 right here. This one is a negative 3. So this one is out. Okay, and let me just double check the last two. 2/3, that is correct. And negative 7. Okay, so this would be the answer. All right, question number 3. Let's go into question number 3. Let me see, did I go up too far? Okay, question number 3. Which expression is equivalent to x squared minus 9? So x squared minus 9, let's think back to Math 1 and Math 2. This is a difference of squares. This is a perfect square. This is a perfect square. Difference is subtraction. Difference of squares. So we're going to take the square root of the first term. Square root of x squared is x. We're going to write it down inside of a binomial. We're actually going to have 2 binomials, so that x is going to go in the first place in each binomial. And then we're going to take the square root of 9. Square root of 9 is 3. And then we put plus and minus. That's how you factor a difference of squares. So let's look for that. X minus 9, x minus 9. No, we're looking for, we factored that 9 into 3 times 3. So a and b are out. Here's a 3 and here's a 3, but it's both subtraction. This last one is subtraction and addition. Just like this one, we've just got them in different order, which is fine. But the answer is D. Okay, so factoring a difference of squares. All right, which choice is equivalent to the expression shown below? 48x cubed minus 243x y squared. I think I might have gone too high. Hopefully you can see that. All right, so we're going to factor something out of both of these terms. I'm going to write it over here so I can see it a little bit better. 48x cubed minus 243x y squared. Okay, I'm going to look at these coefficients first, the numbers, 48 and 243. I can add the digits. 8 plus 4 is 12. 12 is divisible by 3. I can see that this is divisible by 3. If I add 4 plus 3, 4 plus 3 is 7, plus 2 is 9. 9 is divisible by 3, so 243 is divisible by 3. I want to find the greatest common factor, and 3 is the greatest common factor. 6 doesn't go in. 2 doesn't go into both of these numbers, so 6 won't go into both. 9 doesn't go into both. 3 is the greatest number that goes into both. Now I'm going to look at x cubed and xy squared. What do these two have in common? Okay, they both have an x. Okay, now I'm going to look at the smallest power. The smallest power is x to the first power. They don't both have y's, but they both have x's. So I can divide out an x. We're looking at the smallest power, what they have in common. Okay, so I can divide out 3x out of both of those terms. So let me factor out 3x, and then we'll see what's left. 3 goes into 48 16 times. And then this is x to the first power. When you're dividing and you have the same base, you subtract the exponent. So 3 minus 1 is 2. So that's going to be 16x to the second power. Okay, there's subtraction in between. 243 divided by 3 is 24 divided by 3 is 8. And 3 divided by 3 is 1, so that's 81. And then again, we're going to look at the variables. This x and this x cancel. 1 minus 1 is 0, so that's gone. X over x is just 1, so that cancels, and we're left with y squared. So 81y squared. Right now, we just did a difference of squares. If you pay close attention, these are both perfect squares. So let's keep factoring, but I'm going to go ahead and mark out A and B because they only factored out a 3. They didn't factor out the x, so those are out. Alright, so we have 3x, and then this is a difference of squares. So it's going to be two binomials. The square root of 16x squared is 4x. We're going to put that in the first place. And then the square root of 81y squared is 9y. So I'm going to put that in the last place. And then we'll put plus. Almost didn't give myself enough room. Put plus and minus. So 3x times 4x plus 9. 3x plus 9 is over here, 9y. And then 3x times 4x minus 9y. So we have factored that completely. If it asked for solutions or roots, you'd take each factor and set it equal to 0. But it just wants us to find an equivalent expression. So we've done that. Okay, question number 5. Write 5x squared times 4x plus x cubed in standard form. So what we need to do is we need to distribute this term, multiply the 5x squared to both terms. So 5 times 4 is 20. X squared times x squared, when you have the same base, you add the exponents. We have 2 plus 2 more, x to the 4th power. We have addition in between those terms. 5 times 1, you don't see that 1 there, but it's there. 5 times 1 is 5. And then x squared times x cubed, add those exponents again, and you get 5. Okay, 20x to the 4th plus 5x to the 5th is not in standard form because this has the highest power, so this term should come first. 5x to the 5th plus 20x to the 4th. Okay, number 6 is x plus 2, a factor of p of x equals negative 5x cubed minus 15x squared minus 6x plus 8. If it is, write p of x as a product of two factors. Alright, so first of all, let's check to see if this goes into this. So I'm going to use synthetic division, but we have to solve this to see what x is equal to. So set x plus 2 equal to 0. If you subtract 2 from both sides, you get x equals negative 2. So I'm going to take that negative 2 and I'm going to perform synthetic division. Let me check to see if this is in standard form and we're not missing any terms. 3, 2, 1, 0. Yes, it is in standard form. So let's write the coefficient of each term. Negative 5 goes first, then negative 15, then negative 6, and then positive 8. Draw my little line right there. Bring down the first term. Bring down the negative 5. Then multiply. 2 times 5 is 10. Negative times a negative is a positive. Add these two numbers together and get negative 5. Multiply 2 times 5 and get 10. And negative times a negative is a positive. So we get positive 10. 10 minus 6 is 4. If you add those together, you have more positives than negatives. Opposites subtract, and then your sign is positive. All right, negative 2 times positive 4 is negative 8. Put that here, add, you get 0. So yes, this is a factor, so we're going to write it. Remember what we started with. We started with x to the third power, so this is going to be 5x squared minus 5x plus 4. So this is our second factor, but it's a trinomial. Okay, the first factor was x plus 2. We just divided that, broke it into this binomial times this trinomial. Okay, now we need to factor this trinomial. Okay, we're going to use the quadratic formula. B is negative 5. A is negative 5, and C is 4. I'm looking at my answer choices. I don't have to go that far because it just says we had this factor, or we're saying, is this a factor of this? And if it is, write it as a product of two factors. So I have my two factors right here. This is my answer. I don't have to divide it anymore. If it said as three factors, then you would use your quadratic formula. All right, so I'm looking for x plus 2. So this one's out. X minus 2 is not right. X plus 2 is not a factor. It wouldn't be a factor if we had a remainder. So this is out because we have 0. We have no remainder. All right, x plus 2 times negative 5x squared minus 5x, not plus 5x, plus 4. All right, so the answer is C. All right, question number 7. A polynomial equation with rational coefficients has the roots 5 plus the square root of 6 and 1 minus the square root of 5. What are the other two roots? Okay, if we've got 5 plus the square root of 6, we're going to have 5 minus the square root of 6. 5 plus or minus the square root of 6. Okay, if we have 1 minus the square root of 5, we're going to have 1 plus the square root of 5. You've seen us write these together as plus or minus. Okay, so we're going to look for 5 minus the square root of 6. So this one's out. That's 5 plus the square root of 6. 5 minus the square root of 6, and 1 plus the square root of 5. Okay, question number 8. We want to simplify the difference. So we're subtracting this trinomial from this trinomial. So what that means is we're going to change this to addition of, all of these signs become opposites. Now before I change that, let me look inside and change this subtraction to plus a negative. So now this is positive, positive, negative. We're going to change this to plus. This 8w squared becomes negative. Let me line it up. Okay, bring that negative, distribute that negative to all terms. So we're essentially changing changing the sign of each of these. So this was positive, it's going to become negative 7w, and this is negative, it's going to become positive 3. All right, negative 8 plus positive 3w, opposite signs subtract. 8 minus 3 is 5. We have more negatives than positives, so it's negative 5w squareds. Same signs here. 8 and 7 is 15, so we're going to subtract, and they're negative 15w. And then negative 8 plus positive 3, opposite signs, you're going to subtract and get 5, and you have more negatives than positives, so it's negative. So we're going to look for this answer. Negative 5w squared minus 15w minus 5. It's right here. It's B. All right, let's go to the second page. All right, question number 9. Classify the following polynomial. So we're think back to your vocabulary that you've been studying in Quizlet. P of x equals 5x to the fourth minus 2x squared plus 1. Okay, we're missing the degree, the x to the third. It's not there because it's 0. But we don't need to put it there. We're not dividing. Let's just go ahead and check to see if these are in descending order. 4, 2, 1, or 0. We're missing the degree 3 term, and we're missing the x to the first term, the linear term. Okay, but how many terms do we have left? These are zeros. We only fill it in if we're dividing, not if we're classifying. Okay, so 1, 2, 3 terms is a trinomial, not a binomial, not a binomial, trinomial. Okay, we're going to look at the power, and it's of degree 4. Degree 1 is linear. Degree 2 is quadratic. Degree 3 is cubic. And degree 4 is quartic. So quartic trinomial, not quadratic. Quadratic is degree 2. All right, question number 10. The function f is defined as f of x equals x cubed minus 4x squared plus 9x minus 36. 3, 2, 1, 0. So this is in standard form. If 4 is a root of f of x, what are the other two roots? Okay, so again, we're going to have to divide. 4 is the root. We already have it solved. So I'm gonna put my paper up here. There's not enough room to do it on here just to demonstrate. All right, so my root is 4. So if I was to put it in factored form, it would be x minus 4. But I don't need to put it that way. Let me just go ahead and write the 4. I've already solved for x. Okay, we have our function, our polynomial in standard form. Every term is there. 3, 2, 1, 0. It's a cubic. So the first coefficient is 1. The next coefficient is negative 4. And then 9. And then negative 36. Okay, we're going to draw that line right here. Bring down the 1. 4 times 1 is 4. Add. Negative 4 plus positive 4 is 0. Multiply. 4 times 0 is 0. Add. 9 plus 0 is 9. 9 times 4 is 36. Negative 36 plus positive 36 is 0. So we have a trinomial. Okay, we're going to factor that. When we started out, this was a cubic, so this is going to be 1x squared. I won't write the 1, plus 0 plus 9. Okay, and remember, we had the root. If I put it in as a binomial, I'll have to subtract it from x. Put it back this way. Okay. Says doesn't want the factors. I'm looking at the question. What are the two other roots? All right, so this is what we have. This is our quadratic. So we have x squared plus, we're missing, we have 0x plus 9. This is not a difference of squares, it's a sum of squares, so we're not going to be able to factor it easily. We're going to have to use the quadratic formula. So a is 1, b is 0, and c is 9. Alright, so negative b is 0, so I don't even have to write it, but I'll write it there just to hold the place. 0 plus or minus the square root of b squared, b is 0, 0 squared, minus 4 times a, 1, times c, 9, over 2 times a is 1. Alright, we can take that 0 off when we're adding. So it's just going to be plus or minus the square root of 0 squared is 0, minus 4 times 9, 9 times 4 is 36, over 2. Alright, in this case we have a negative. We're going to pull that out, write it as the square root of negative 1 times the square root of 36. The square root of negative 1 is going to be I. Square root of 36 is 6. So on the top we have 6i all over 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 2 goes into 6 3 times, so the answer is 3i. Okay, but it's plus or minus 3i. Alright, so plus or minus 3i. We need that quadratic formula a lot for this test, so make sure that's something that you write down on your note cards. Alright, for question number 11, we're asked to graph the polynomial of 5x to the fourth minus 2x squared plus 2x minus 1. So you would put in p of x, just like this, into your graphing calculator, and then determine which of these statements is false. So let me get that up here, and we'll look at that in just a minute. Alright, so I have it in my calculator. I'm just going to double check to make sure that I have it entered correctly with all the signs. So I have 5x to the fourth minus 2x squared plus 2x minus 1. 0.565 and 0. So if I drop down to the lowest point, local minimum, that is incorrect. So it looks like the first one is false. Let's just check to make sure that the others are all true, because sometimes these have errors in them. Alright, the graph is increasing on the interval from negative 0.605 to infinity. So here I'm pointing at x is negative 0.605. Going to positive infinity would be going in this direction. So it says that the graph is increasing. So that's true, because it goes up from here. It just goes up. It doesn't ever drop down again. So that's a true statement. Alright, C, the graph is negative from negative 1 to 0.565. So let's look at where x is negative 1. Okay, so we're going to start here, and we're going to go to this interval right here. So So the graph is negative. That means the y values are all negative from here down to here. And that is correct because they're below the x-axis. So they're going to be negative. All right, and the last one needs to be true. Okay, the graph is decreasing from negative infinity to negative 0.605. So this is our stopping point. Okay, is the graph decreasing? So from here, it looks like the graph is going down. When it reaches that minimum, it'll bounce back up. Okay, so this is true as well. So the only one that's false is A. All right, question number 12 says factor the following polynomial. So this is a cube and this is a cube. We did several of these in class together. So we're going to take the cube root of each term. We can break down x cubed into x times x times x, and we can break down 8 into 2 times 2 times 2. So the cube root means we're taking a cube, not a square. We're going to have 3 of those before we can take them out. So we have 3 x's. We're going to take them out as one single x. We have 3 2's. We can take out a 2. Okay? So we're going to write this way. We have those 2 terms. We're going to keep the same sign. We started with a negative. We're going to keep that sign. Okay, then we're going to have 3 terms. The first one is going to be that x. We're going to square it. Then we're going to square the 2. We're going to put the 4 here. Then we're going to multiply them together and get 2x for the middle. Same sign, opposite sign. So this is going to be plus. And the last is always positive. Same sign, opposite, always positive. So we're looking for x minus 2. We have one here and one here. And then x squared, I forgot to square that. X squared plus 2x plus 4. So x minus 2, x squared plus 2x, so that's out. X minus 2, x squared plus 2x plus 4. It's right here. All right, question number 13. On which interval is this polynomial p of x equal x cubed minus 4x squared plus 2 positive? So again, we need to graph it, and we need to look at what interval that this is going to be going up. Okay, so we look at these points, okay, where x starts here to at 0.789. We move up where x is 3.866, and we see if it's always positive above the x-axis. All right, so give me a minute to graph that, and we'll pull it up.